Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a look at some of the main stories that have caught my attention today in the Spanish press, and we'll also go into the comment section on previous videos and check out what is happening there. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on recent videos. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual, and a huge thanks to people that have supported the channel recently, either by buying me a coffee or through the new Super Thanks option, or people that have become Patreons on the Patreon website. Thank you very much for your support. Now, as you can see, I've got a new backdrop today coming to you from my new room with a view of the Gran Via here behind me. Let's check out what the traffic's like on the Gran Via. Not too bad. Flowing at the moment, which is always a positive. Now let's get straight into the news today, and the first story that caught my attention today in the press is about the new train scandal here in Spain. The government went ahead and bought some new trains for Cantabria and Asturias in the north of the country, but they didn't realize that the trains were too big and they wouldn't be able to fit into the tunnels in that part of Spain, so they have had to cancel the order. And as we can see here, the train case has now reached the European Union. The EIB will review the 150 million loan to Renfe when it learned that the trains would not fit through the tunnel. The scandalous case of the trains that do not fit through tunnels has reached the European Union because they received EU funding. The European Investment Bank, EIB, will review the loan granted to Renfe for the purchase of 31 trains bound for the Cantabrian coast after being informed by the Spanish company that they do not fit through the tunnel. EIB sources confirmed to El Mundo that the institution has been informed of the delay and will assess whether it is justified in allowing Renfe to extend the loan. The EIB has been informed that Renfe is working with the supplier of the trains as they need to be redesigned to run on all the lines, the Luxembourg headquarters of the European Union's main financial agent said. So there we go, the train case has reached the European Union because in part those new trains were financed by European Union money. And as we know, somebody here in Spain, or a couple of people here in Spain, absolutely botched the project. Chapuzas is the word that has been used to call these people that, as I said, botched this project. How do they get it wrong? Nobody knows. You would think that the first thing people would do would understand the size of the tunnels and therefore buy the trains according to the size of the tunnels, but apparently that didn't happen, and it's going to cost a lot of money to rectify the situation. But hey, it's European money. And here we can see a graphic of the problem. Picture A, the current trains and the way they're working. You can see that they fit through the tunnels quite nicely. B is a picture of the trains that have been rejected because, as you can see, they don't fit through the tunnels. And C is a picture of the redesigned trains, and as we can see, they are redesigned to fit through those tunnels. So as I said, a botched job when it comes to the ordering of those trains. Now we'll just check the traffic there on the Gran Via. Traffic still moving. Positive. Now the third piece of news today, good news for people that are looking to get their hands on that new digital Nomad visa, because apparently, from what I've read in the press recently, it's now available. As we can read here, come on down, Nomad visa is now available. The long-awaited digital Nomad visa in Spain is now available. The remote work visa gives non-European nationals, including Britons, the chance to live and work in Spain for up to 5 years with their families, and they will also receive tax breaks. It is aimed at people who work remotely for non-Spanish-based companies, and it will allow them to live and work in Spain with relatively limited paperwork. Since Brexit, the number of Britons moving to Spain has fallen, and the Spanish government hopes that the Nomad visa will reverse this state of affairs. So there we go, the new digital Nomad visa now available for people from outside the European Union that want to live and work in Spain, as long as you meet the requirements, of course, as long as you meet the income requirements and other things like that. So check out the list of requirements and make sure that you do meet those requirements before you apply for the visa, because you wouldn't want to have it turned down. But as we saw, they're a great opportunity for Britons again to come and live and work in this country. English teachers, for example, have been missing in recent times because, as we know, since Brexit, it has not been easy for people from the United Kingdom to live and work not only in Spain but in other EU country. So a great opportunity for some people, no doubt, with this new visa. Now, the next piece of news we'll look at today relates to a government plan to privatise air traffic controllers here in Spain. Controversial, and as we can see, the government prepares the largest privatisation of air traffic controllers in Spain in the middle of a strike. The Sanchez government is preparing to liberalise the management of the control of 7 of the largest airports in Spain, which until now have been administered by the state company ANER, a body attached to the Ministry of Transport, according to government sources. The plan of the PSOE and Unidas Podemos government, according to El Confidencial, is to transfer the management of the control towers of the airports of Palma de Mallorca, Málaga, Costa del Sol, Gran Canaria, Tenerife Sur, Tenerife Norte, Bilbao and Santiago into private hands, as trade union sources also point out. In the midst of the private air traffic controller strike, the Transport Ministry points out that the experience so far of the service provided by private providers has been significantly positive in terms of quality and economic efficiency, so the MITMA's assessment has been favourable to AENA's request. So some typical government gobbledygook there, try saying that after a few beers, to justify their decision to privatise the air traffic controllers at some of the main airports in this country. For example, as we saw there, Palma de Mallorca and 2 airports in Tenerife, and also that very busy airport down there in Malaga, Costa del Sol. So we'll see how this one plays out, and as we saw there, other airport traffic controllers are on strike currently, privatised airport traffic controllers. So as I said, we'll see what happens with this new batch of privatisation in that sector. And the final piece of news today relates to Spain's most famous cultural activity, bullfighting. That's right, cultural activity, bullfighting. Because as we can see here, the Culture Ministry is to include bullfighting in the Bono Cultural Joven in 2023 after a Supreme Court ruling. Bullfighting enters the Bono Cultural Joven thanks to the Supreme Court. Yesterday, the court annulled the exclusion of bullfighting festivals from the list of activities in which citizens who turn 18 can spend the €400 that the government donates to them. And today, Wednesday, sources from the Ministry of Culture and Sport confirmed to El País that the ruling will be complied with. That is, the second edition of the aid, which has already been launched for 2023, will be modified to include these shows. So an interesting piece of news there that bullfighting will be included in this Bono Cultural, a cheque that young people get for €400, as we saw, to spend on cultural activities. Bullfighting previously excluded from this cheque because the government didn't think that it was a cultural activity, but the Supreme Court ruling in favour of bullfighting associations. So the bullfighting fraternity in this country doing whatever they can to stay relevant in 2023. Now we'll leave the news there and have a look at some comments that have been left on previous videos. The first one here from Roberto: I was in Spain for vacation with my family and my son-in-law is of Spanish citizenship and so is my grandson. We all reside on the island of Puerto Rico. On my last 2 days in Spain, I became ill and was taken to the University Hospital Gregorio Marañón in Madrid. I was hospitalized for 3 days. Although I have medical insurance here in the US, it doesn't work in Spain. I thought, how am I going to pay for this? To my surprise, I didn't have to pay anything. The only thing I paid was €14 for 4 prescriptions. Gracias, España. Yeah, Roberto, thanks for the comment and thanks for sharing with us your experience with the health system here in Spain. As you said there, you came to Spain on holiday with your son and grandson who are Spanish citizens. You got sick, ended up in a Spanish hospital and were worried about how you were going to have to pay for the bill. But to your surprise, it didn't cost a cent. The only thing that you had to pay for were medications. And that is an example of how the hospital system works here in Spain, universal coverage. If you fall sick, which was your case, they're not going to let you die in the street, which is the case in some other countries, I imagine. Here in Spain, they're going to put you in hospital, treat your illness, and let you go a few days later and not ask any questions. So a big tick for the health system in this country, and as I said, thanks for sharing that experience with us, Robert. Another comment here from Corby: was it chapuza you were asking about? From what I remember, it means shoddy work, a cock-up or cowboy work. My electrician friend used it a lot when he was describing some other electrician's work. Yeah, Corby, thanks for the comment, and this is a word that popped up in yesterday's live stream, chapuza, which means exactly what you said there in your comment. And the reason it popped up was because we also talked about that train cock-up there in the north of Spain, where somebody ordered the wrong size trains that wouldn't be able to fit through the tunnels, and the president of Cantabria, Mr. Revilla, called it a chapuza. And unfortunately, this is going to be a chapuza that cost European Union citizens a lot of money. Another comment here from Jess: it seems that they knew more than 1 year ago that the trains ordered were not suitable. So there should be something else that we, the public, do not know. Yeah, Jess, thanks for the comment, and you're absolutely right. More and more information on this train debacle up there in the north of the country is coming to light. People starting to take responsibility for their actions, but up until now, everything was kept in the dark. And it's come to light now, no doubt, because they can't keep it in the dark for any longer. But this is yet another example of the lack of transparency that this current government has. When they came into power, they said that they were going to be the most transparent government that Spain has ever had, but that is not happening. But let's be honest, how many governments around the world are truly transparent? You could probably count them on one hand. Another comment here from Stephen Stewart: how about a visit to Melilla and Ceuta? That would be an interesting one. They're like a couple of Spanish Gibraltars. Always a pleasure watching your vids. Yeah, Stephen, thanks for the comment, but to be honest, I have never thought about visiting the two places that you mentioned in your comment, Ceuta and Melilla, two places down there in the north of Africa that belong to Spain. A little bit controversial, as we know, because Morocco doesn't like it, and they're two places that always seem to be in the news for all the wrong reasons. And I have a couple of students from Melilla currently. I speak to them every week, and they tell me about all of the things that happen down in that part of North Africa. And one thing that I can say after 24 years of living here in Spain is that I have never met a person that is talking about going on holiday to either Ceuta or Melilla. They'll talk about going on holidays to the Costa del Sol, they'll talk about going on holidays to the north of Spain, but you never hear people talking about planning a trip to those two autonomous Spanish cities in the north of Africa. I wonder why. And finally, one here from Paul: imagine a bank funded by the people supporting and lending to their customers. Oh, we did. Then greed took over. Yeah, Paul, thanks for the comment, and you're absolutely right. We did used to have public banks here in Spain. They were called cajas. There was also another public bank called Argentaria, but that now is part of BBVA. BBVA, A for Argentaria. So that was a state-owned bank that disappeared, and all of the cajas that were in hands of the autonomous communities around the country have also disappeared, except for 3, I think, because basically the big banks were too competitive and they pushed them out of business. And I almost forgot. Politicians back in the day changed the rules in which these cajas could operate. Before, they had a fairly simple set of rules that they had to adhere to, but the government changed that back in the 1990s or early 2000s, I think, and cajas were able to compete with banks, and we saw how that ended up for the cajas. So another example of a political cock-up, in my opinion, and I don't think anybody has put their hand up and accepted responsibility for that decision. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. We can see the traffic in the Gran Via is still moving freely. That's positive. Hasta luego.